We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up. Hey, 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 way down in the back.
T.A. We are live. Welcome back in to the Tigers Avenue show. Hope all of you enjoyed your Thanksgiving time with your family. We certainly did. Had a great Thanksgiving and lots to be thankful for. Hope y'all all reflected on those things. And great holiday season as always. And now it's on to Christmas. It's on to Christmas, which means, unfortunately, that the football season is quickly coming to a close, as it always does, far too soon. The regular season wrapped up this previous weekend following Thanksgiving. LSU capped off their regular season against Oklahoma. We will obviously discuss and recap that game. We'll give you a little hoops update. I think we need to do a little bit of a little the last two games were against very inferior opponents, and we'll talk about those games and what we saw in those games that we liked. But obviously, there's a pretty big matchup tomorrow night for the men's basketball team, so we'll give you a little look towards that game, as well as the Tigers will take on the Florida State Seminoles at home in the SEC ACC Men's Basketball Challenge. Looking forward to that game. I think it's going to be a very competitive game, so we will certainly be looking towards that. And obviously, we're going to have to talk about our early National Signing Day. It really isn't early National Signing Day. It really has become the national.
Pretty much.
So, it's like we might as well just change the name. But most everybody will sign on Wednesday, December 4th this week. So we'll give a look on that as well. And so I think LSU is going to be very pleased come Wednesday with all of their signees. It's going to be a great class, regardless of what happened with the big name Bryce Underwood. It's still going to be a fantastic class, and I think we can talk about the future of this roster a little bit in that segment as well, because obviously there's lots of talk about that. The regular season's wrapped up, so the portal's about to open. Names are already starting to hit, so obviously we're going to discuss those things as well. Zach, with that being said, Oklahoma Sooners come into Death Valley to wrap up the final game of the regular season. And, man, I mean, the Tigers win in hindsight, outside of the game, looking back at the game, going back, and I've watched it a couple times now. Looking back at it, LSU really dominated this game.
Yeah.
Really dominated this game. There were a few hiccup moments, and there was an oh crap moment. This is but obviously that changed for the good. LSU wins 37-17. The Sooners are coming off a dominant victory over the top 10 ranked Crimson Tide, 24-3 butt whooping. And they're coming into Tiger Stadium. You're thinking, man, you really hope you can close the season out with a W for the senior night. And that they did. They handled business. This Oklahoma offense has not been good all year. In fact, they've been close to last in the SEC in offensive efficiency and all kind of different offensive metrics. They're near the bottom in just about everything. And you really exploited that Saturday night defensively. Zach, looking back at it, and I'll run through the game, but You allowed 17 points, and it all came in the first half. One of them being a defensive touchdown. Your defense on Saturday night against Oklahoma was smothering.
Yeah.
When you rewatch the game, our defense was overwhelming them the majority of the game. They only allowed 10 points to their offense and put up a shutout in the second half. It was a dominant performance from the defense. I was very proud of them. The one mistake that they made is the mistake that we've struggled with all year long. It is the zone read with the quarterback run. Now, he didn't score on the play, but it certainly set up for the score because he got down to like the 1 or 2 yard line. Jackson Arnold, early in the game, it was after we had scored our first touchdown, about midfield. He acts like he's going to hand the ball off. It's a zone read. Whit Weeks, it is his job to take care of the running back. Greg Penn, his eyes get a little happy, and he follows the running back. Should have stayed put. His assignment was the quarterback. Whit Weeks' assignment was the running back. Whit Weeks would have perfectly been fine with the running back. Greg Penn's eyes deceived him, thinking it was a handoff. He went with it and left a very clear lane for Jackson Arnold as Arnold pulled it and got all the way down to the goal line, essentially, and they proceeded to score the next play. That was really the one mistake that this defense made. Your defense even had a interception. They caused pressure. Zach, that play all around was fantastic. They tried to pull a little trick play on you. You got pressure, right? They ran the little screen, and then they were going to throw downfield or either throw back to Jackson Arnold. Well, they run the little screen. You immediately get pressure on the receiver who's going to throw the ball. Braden Swinson, having great IQ, sees Jackson Arnold sneaking back to the other sideline, goes and covers him. Well, the receiver has nobody to throw the ball to, so he throws the ball up in the air for grabs, and Sage Ryan comes away with it. It was a great defensive stand there, defensive play. But Zach, like I said, you dominated from the beginning. You had the opening drive. It kind of petered out. Your defense got a 3-and-out for you. The very next drive, Nussmeier hits Lacey on a 3rd-and-9 play where he trots in the end zone. Good for Lacey to score on his senior night. Proud of him. Obviously out of eligibility, so love to see him score his last night in Tiger Stadium. The next drive for Oklahoma would be that touchdown I was just talking about. And then that is when the disaster would strike, Zach. Will Campbell, I mean, we'll just say it. As good as Will Campbell is, he got absolutely beat on this play. One-on-one, there was no help. It was Will Campbell against that defensive end, and he totally got beat. Blindside tackled Garrett Nussmeier, lands on his shoulder. Everyone's worried that it's a dislocated shoulder or a broken clavicle, collarbone, whatever you want to say. It doesn't look good. Garrett Nussmeier goes off, takes his shoulder pads off, goes to the locker room, and you're thinking, boy, oh boy, it just got really bad. Well, man, you stepped up in different ways to get your team points while Garrett Nussmeier was out of the game. Caden Durham, when A.J. Swan comes in, gets the ball and burst a huge run up the middle, goes to the sideline, gets you in the red zone. Obviously, you don't convert there. You really wish Caden Durham would have punched it in. But with A.J. Swan on the field, when he didn't punch it in, it wasn't likely that you were going to find your way in the end zone. You didn't. Ramos puts 3 points on the board for you, though, and he gets you the lead, right? Well, Oklahoma responds. Earlier in there, they had scored their touchdown with the strip sack with Garrett Nussmeier. That was very early in the game.
Yeah.
But they respond with a field goal, and that makes it, I think, 17-10. LSU. I'm trying to remember now, but I know that they scored responding after that, and that was their final score. I think it was a field goal, which made it 17-10 or something like that. And then obviously Aaron Anderson, while Garrett Nussmeier is still out of the game, looks like he's coming back, but after Oklahoma had scored, you respond immediately with the 100-yard touchdown kickoff return. Excuse me, y'all. I mean, it was so awesome to see that because it's been so long since we've seen LSU return a kickoff, and that was just a huge
2020, I think. Yeah,
it was a huge moment because it felt like things had gone to crap, and you were finding other ways to score.
Yeah.
Love you, buddy. Love you, dude. Say night, night. You say go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Night, Zeke.
Say night.
Night.
Love you, buddy.
Love
You have good sleep, okay? So they respond with a huge kickoff return. You stop them again on defense, and then Garrett Nussmeier comes back in the game, and right before half throws the bomb to Chris Hilton. It was fantastic, finally hitting Chris Hilton. Your defense comes out, second half, dominates the whole half. I mean, just to do it briefly, they dominate the whole half. They don't allow Oklahoma to score. Chris Hilton gets another bomb thrown to him over the middle of the field and hooks up with Garrett Nussmeier once more to make it 31, and then we kick 2 field goals later on in the game, make it 37-17. It was a dominant win, Zach. It really was. When it felt like all hope was lost, when it felt like you were going to end your season on a horrible note, and it looks like Garrett Nussmeier may have just had a very serious injury, and you're thinking, what possible way could we have ended this any worse? And it felt like it was going to be a loss. Garrett Nussmeier pulls himself together from whatever happened. Thank goodness the x-rays and whatnot came back negative, and came out guns blazing and was phenomenal. I mean, when he came back from that injury, he was electric. It was awesome, Zach. It was absolutely amazing to see the turnaround from his injury, returning into the game, and putting the game away the way that he did. And it was also amazing to see your team, even with Garrett out, put 10 points on the board to help him, right? To give him time, to keep your team in the game. It was fantastic, Zach. It was, I think it was a proper way to end this season and to say, you know what? That was awesome. And it was. How often, Zach, would you see a guy on a team who is 7-4 go to a locker room to have to get x-rays, decide to come back into the game? You're out of the playoffs. There's no SEC championship. You're only playing for a bowl game spot, right? You're not playing to get into a bowl game, but what bowl game you're going. That's really all you are playing for. And as we all know, bowl games mean nothing. Let's be real. They mean absolutely nothing. Yet, he has the guts and the grit to say, you know what? I love this team. I love LSU. We're not going out like this. And he came out, Zach, and he dominated. And you could say whatever the heck you want to say about Garrett Nussmeier. I don't give a rip. I love him because he loves LSU with everything that he has, and he proved that to you on Saturday night. I don't give a rip what you say. I don't care about his turnover problems. That is a guy, as a fan, that I can get behind. I like that is the kind of guy I want playing for LSU. And that's the kind of guy I want back leading this team next year. And I hope he is. And I think he's going to be. So that's my thoughts on the game, Zach. I know I kind of gave a spiel there, but I really wanted to say that and cover the game there like that. But that was an amazing way to cap off the regular season with him responding to an injury that way. You back in?
Can you hear me now? Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
My mic was messing up. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, the poise that he had and the grit, as many people have said, to come back from the injury and perform the way that he did was really impressive. And it's kind of weird because like the last 2 games you have pretty much dominated, but also in the last 2 games you had moments where you were like, oh, this is not looking good, right? Like early on in the Vanderbilt game, you had the fumble on the opening kickoff, go 3 and out, first play from the scrimmage. Vanderbilt throws a touchdown. You're like, oh, crap, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
Then obviously in the Oklahoma game, strip sack to score a touchdown to tie it up. You get Garrett Nussmeier taken out of the game. He gets some of Michael's secret stuff from Space Jam and comes back into the game, which, by the way, I'm working on an edit for that. So here in a little bit, I'll toss
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. But anyways, so it was impressive all around for LSU to be able to close out. And I got to be honest, I think a lot of LSU fans, including myself, were honestly nervous about this game just because of how everything had happened with Oklahoma beating Alabama. I think there were some worries there that LSU might struggle a little bit, especially obviously with Jackson Arnold being a running quarterback. And there was times during the game that LSU did struggle with Jackson Arnold's legs, but ultimately LSU's defense played really good football. And the thing that impressed me the most was you saw so many young guys, and I know we're going to talk about the future of LSU and specifically next year and what it could look like, but you had so many young guys that played massive roles in this game. I mean, obviously Whit Weeks, Defensive Player of the Week in the SEC, he had 15 tackles, was just all over the field, made 2 statement hits on the same drive, chased down Jackson Arnold to the sideline and just bulldozed him. And that had happened right, I think, while Garrett Nussmeier was out. So to have him, who is a true sophomore, step up this season and make the plays that he has, and obviously even after the losses, to still be competing and making the plays that he's been making is really encouraging for the future. Devon Keys, 10 tackles, had I think a sack and a half or something like that. I don't know, but he was impressive, extremely impressive. So true freshman. Dominic McKinley, 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. Another true freshman that has played a pivotal role.
SEC Freshman of the Week, by the way.
Yeah, Caden Durham, true freshman.
Yep.
Gave you the burst that you needed. I know it didn't end the way that a lot of LSU fans wanted with the touchdown, that drive, but as soon as Garrett Nussmeier goes out, who do you look to? You give it to the freshman who's been a playmaker for you, and he busts into the open field, 50-yard gain. Unfortunately, A.J. Swan was missed Mason Taylor a couple throws there in the red zone, which forced you to kick a field goal. So kind of felt a little bit let down. But then, as I said, Garrett Nussmeier went to the locker room, got a little bit of Michael's secret stuff, came back into the game, and honestly looked the best we've seen him all year after coming out of the locker room. It helps that Chris Hilton, was able to finally burst onto the scene and to be able to properly time catching the football. 2 big touchdowns for Chris Hilton. Really impressed with him on the game. Obviously, there was a lot of talk during fall camp about Chris Hilton and how impressive he was and the connection that him and Nussmeier had, but had to deal with the injury and took a long time for him to get back. So to finally see him, get what was his this season and for all of that talk to finally come to fruition was also really encouraging. So there's a lot of encouraging things to take from this game. I understand, like, you played a really bad offense, but Oklahoma's defense is a really good defense, and you put up 37 on them. You probably should have put up more if Nussmeier's in the game for the entire 4 quarters. But overall, as you said, Reagan, you dominated. You had a little bit of a stretch there where it was a little nerve-wracking. I was really impressed with Sage Ryan. Obviously, not like a super impressive interception, like the guy just kind of heaved it up to him. But Sage Ryan had a really good game. I think he graded out really well with Pro Football Focus. So overall, just an encouraging end of the season. I mean, you never want to end the season on a loss. You think like back to like 2018 and then the regular season with that loss to A&M. There's obviously there's been others here in the recent past few seasons where you've had losses at the end of the season that just sucked. I mean, LSU losing to A&M in 2022. Heading into the SEC championship game before they played Georgia. There was a lot of talk about them going to the playoff potentially. And Texas A&M just kind of, doused that fire in 2022 with LSU ending the regular season with a loss on the road to A&M. So, just ending the season with a win here in the regular season is always just a feel good. So, overall, good game for LSU and really impressive performances from all the players that have been impressive really this entire season, but also some impressive performances from a lot of the younger guys that you're going to have back next year. Aaron Anderson, I don't know what much more you can say about Aaron Anderson. Continues to just be a playmaker. And now, like you think about next year, if you got Zay and you got Aaron Anderson back potentially next year, I mean, you could put both of them back there at kickoff return. Obviously, Josh Williams is going to be gone, right? So he's not going to be back there receiving kickoffs. So, I mean, shoot, if you have Aaron Anderson and you have Xavier Thomas, receiving kickoffs, I mean, that is a very dangerous duo on kick return there potentially for next year. I know, obviously, they've still got to actually announce that they're coming back and all that good stuff. But
well, they are.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it from
Aaron's a redshirt sophomore. He could have 2 more years.
From all accounts, it seems like they're going to come back. So, and we'll obviously get into that here a little bit more. But overall, I enjoyed it, Reagan. It was good to be able to, after a nice Thanksgiving meal, sit down and enjoy an LSU Tiger win in dominant fashion.
It was. And Zach, I wanted to point out one other thing. Just narratives and fan talk that always seem to get so loud during the season, especially a season like this, where kind of your expectations weren't met, and things were seeming to pile on, right? You look at a guy like Chris Hilton, and in the midst of all that, right, had a bad moment and came to the sideline, and Brian Kelly got in his ear a little bit, and everybody's like, oh, here we, Brian Kelly's out of touch with his players, and look at this player, and it's an issue, and he's jawing in his ear, and, all this garbage that really in reality is just probably not true. Come back and have a game like that, gets the game ball from Brian Kelly. Like, you've got to realize we're not in the locker room. We're not there every day. We don't know conversations that are had.
Correct.
We don't know these players personally. Maybe some of, maybe a couple of them, maybe 1 or 2 on the team you might know personally but very rarely do any of us know these players personally on a level like someone like Brian Kelly, their head coach, or Cortez Hankton, his receiving coach, or any of that. And fans go, and the media goes, oh, look at this moment, right? And they want to highlight it and kind of make a mockery of it. And then the guy comes back and responds like that. Look, sometimes it's like a coach has got to be allowed to be a coach. A coach has to be allowed to do that. And Zach, I don't know about you. I don't know about y'all who are listening, but when I played football, if you didn't do what you did right,
you got chewed on.
That's football.
Yeah.
I've been involved with this team here at Itawamba. I've been with them through spring, through fall, through the entire season. When something doesn't go right and they mess up and they don't do what they're supposed to do, and it's a repeated thing, they get chewed out.
Yeah.
That's what happens. And it's not the first time we've seen it. It's not the first time we've seen it on an LSU sideline. So I want to say things like that, fan narratives like that, and all those kind of things. Like, we've got to quit being, and I know I say this a lot, and I think we want to, but I think it's so important because I feel like LSU fans are so guilty of it all the time. Stop being such captives and slaves of the moment. Look at the big picture. Keep the big picture in mind and quit letting each little detail and moment of every little thing build a narrative in your mind that really isn't true.
Yeah.
You can pick little things out in every little thing in any fabric of your life. It doesn't have to be LSU football. You can pick little details of things and say, oh, this has to be true because of this, this, and this. And it's just not true sometimes. And I just wish we would stop doing that. And I feel like Chris Hilton was proof of that Saturday night.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's disconnected from this player. He this and this and that with this player and blah, blah, blah. And you see what he did.
Yeah.
And you see what happened. Not all what you think is true. So stop listening to everything that is being said on Twitter, on Instagram, on whatever you're following, and allow things to play out and look at the bigger picture and quit being so captive and slave of the moment. Because there is a bigger picture to look at here with this LSU. Of course, we'll talk about that moving on from this season. And I think it's a picture that could be really great. I really do. So with that being said, I think, like you said, Zach, it was a great way to end the regular season. And we'll see what bowl game LSU winds up in. Obviously the conference championships have to play out, and we'll see how it is. But Garrett Nussmeier already made it very clear that he's playing in the bowl game, and I think we'll have great participation in the bowl game, Zach. I really do. I would expect just about everybody to play. The only players I think that would not play in the bowl game, Zach, if I could name a couple players, I would think that maybe Will Campbell, Kyron Lacey.
Potentially.
Other than that, I wouldn't think of any other player that would sit out. And even then, I think Kyron and Will might play. So we'll see. I may be wrong about that, but those are the only two players that I would think would have a real reason to sit out, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
Especially Will Campbell. So, but they just don't seem like those guys. They seem like the guys that are going to play.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Maybe we can end the season on a good bowl win and build towards the future. Speaking of, that's the last segment. Sorry. Hoops. We need to talk a little bit of hoops, Zach. LSU men's and women's basketball both coming off victories as expected, I think. Both very inferior opponents. LSU men's basketball played Northwestern. And Zach, was the women's North Carolina Central? Is that right?
North Carolina
Central. I know it was NC Central. I figured it was North Carolina. Just want to make sure. But, I mean, more so the women than the men's. The men did dominate, but golly, Zach, did the women ever dominate in the second half of that women's game? I know you watched a good bit of it. I mean, I checked the score a couple times and saw it, and I was like, well, geez, Louise, good grief. So, Zach, walk us through that game a little bit. What really did you like to see, and who was highlighted in that game that played really well?
Well, I mean, the usual suspects. I mean, when you're going up against a team, that's 0-9, North Carolina Central, obviously LSU is way overpowering against a team like that. I mean, there really isn't a whole lot to discuss about this game. I mean, you can just kind of run through the stats a little bit there, but Flazé Johnson was her normal self. She had 22 points. She led all scorers, and really just dominated the game. She kind of came on late there a little bit. Had a little bit of a slow start. Anissa Morrow is really the player that got things going for the Tigers to start. She had another double-double, 17 and 11. It was good to see Samaya Smith get in the double figures again with 13. Then you also had Michaela. Michaela's been a little up and down. I'll be honest about that. Like she's been a little up and down. I just kind of feel like that's probably the player that she is going to be for the most part. Is a little up and down. Like she's gonna give you games where she is dominant. And she's hot, and then she's going to have other games where I mean that's just kind of how it is for players that are like Michaela, like where you're very a player that's very shooter heavy. That's going to be kind of what you get out of Michaela for the most part. So she's been a little up and down for a little bit this season, but she did have 10. I still feel like LSU has not quite yet figured out who they want to really rely on at point guard. Cheyenne Day Wilson has been getting the bulk of point guard duty, and obviously has been the starter for most of LSU's games at point guard. You obviously had last year Poa, who last year really was your best point guard. And then you have Kaylin Gilbert, who, in my opinion, I feel like needs to be the starting point guard.
Yeah.
Kaylin had 19 points on the bench. Last year, Poa had 12. I mean, everybody got buckets this game. Wolfen Barger had 10. Jada Richard had 10. We saw Miracle Shepherd get some more work. I know she's been working off her injury. She had 10 points. And 7 rebounds. So she's been really impressive. LSU's got plenty of depth. That's not an issue for LSU at all. My biggest question, especially as we get closer and closer to SEC play, is who are you really going to rely on as a starting point guard? In my personal opinion, and I've stated this before on social media, but in my personal opinion, if LSU wants to be at their best as far as a starting 5 goes, I personally feel like Kaylin Gilbert needs to be the one that gets the start. We'll see, though, if Kim Mulkey agrees with me there. I'm no way trying to assume that I know better than Kim. But that's just my personal opinion. I feel like Kaylin Gilbert has kind of proven herself and has she been a little bit inconsistent at times? Yes. What will she look like with some consistency as a starter? Because as a starter, you know what you're going to get. The minutes you're gonna have to be accounted for. She's been really impressive off the bench. How good will she look as a starter? I mean, we obviously saw where she almost had a triple-double earlier on in the season. And she's just really, really good at navigating the floor, at facilitating the offense. She's really good at getting the ball out to open players, open shooters. So I don't know. I just kind of want to see a little. I kind of want to just see what that would look like. I don't know if Kim Mulkey is gonna do me the favor of giving me that pleasure to be able to see her as a starter, but. Anyways, impressive win for the girls.
Absolutely.
And it also was Kim Mulkey's 100th win.
Shout out
as LSU's head coach. So obviously, big props to her. I mean, LSU's in a phenomenal situation with Kim Mulkey as the head coach of women's basketball. So, anyways, as far as men's go, they played Northwestern State, and Reagan continue to struggle a little bit early on in these games, man. They were down at half.
Yeah, they do the first. By the way, Kim Mulkey, fastest women's head coach to 100 wins in the program history. No surprise there. But yeah, for whatever reason, the men's team, it's like and it seems that way with both teams, both women's and men's kind of struggled in the first half. It feels like. I can't remember who it was, but somebody shared the shooting statistics for the women's team between the first half and the second half of the season so far. And the second half has been far, far better shooting-wise for the women's team. But and it feels like it's the same for the men's. So the men's go to half against Northwestern down a point, 25-26. I don't know what Matt McMahon said to them at halftime.
They
Um,
turned it on.
but whatever he said to them at halftime, buddy, they turned it up. Zach, by the way, I just want to say this. I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit. I have been ringing the Corey chest bell since he was redshirting.
Yeah, you
Since
have.
he signed with LSU.
You really, yeah.
And he sat a year, and I said it was going to be a great thing for him. And, buddy, Corey Chest has been everything you wanted him to be when he came here. As a prospect, he graded out as a phenomenal rebounder and a great defender, and that's exactly what he's been for you. He consistently is getting boards, and it's helped you tremendously on the offensive glass and the defensive glass.
Yeah.
He had 5 blocks the other night, 5 to go along with his 10 rebounds and 9 points. He is a spark. He brings the energy. And Zach, we earlier in the season were saying, hey, Matt McMahon, you may want to start Corey Chest, over Robert Miller.
Yep.
We got our request granted. Maybe
Kim Mulkey will answer my request. I don't know.
Answer your request. But look, nice. Dude, Corey Chest is, his second half effort in that game and just all year.
All right, Reagan, hold on. Pause.
Yes.
Pause.
What? Do you have the edit?
I have something special for you.
Oh, let's see it. I've been ready for it since you mentioned it.
That's not what I – hold on.
Oh, wow. What a great logo. Okay.
Hold on. There we go. That's Jake Flint, the
Nuss's secret stuff. Hey, I love it.
I hope all of our viewers right now are enjoying this. If I've seen distracted during the show, this is why.
That is awesome. I freaking love it. I love it.
I've got to post that.
Yeah, you got to. So Corey Chest. So, anyways, the second half, first half was kind of slow and sluggish as it's been. Second half, Zach, they came out stinking guns blazing. This team is so stinking good when you get out in transition. When they get out in transition, they're very hard to stop. Yeah. And that's how they got going in the second half. They opened up without the ball. They got a defensive stop. They pushed the ball down the court, got a fast break. I can't remember who it was, but they dished it to Cam Carter at like the elbow right in front of LSU's bench, hit the three to take the lead, and it was off from there. And the very next play, they got a stop. Cam Carter got the rebound, fast break, alley-oop, and slam to Corey Chest to follow up the three-pointer from Cam Carter. He follows it up with an alley-oop assist to Corey Chest. The energy was immediately injected into the whole LSU's bench, and from there they ran away with this game. I think there was at one point it got to like a 13-0 run. LSU scored 25 points in the first half. They scored 52 in the second half. They more than doubled their points in the second half to Northwestern's 27 points in the second half. It was a dominant second half, to say the least, in all facets of the game. Yeah. I also want to highlight Jai Bailey continues to just be a veteran-like leader on this team.
Consistent.
Surprising as it is, he's not his numbers aren't flashy, but he makes critical, timely plays. It was literally
had a big and one in that game.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. It was literally like the three-pointer from Cam Carter, the alley-oop dunk to Corey Chest, Jordan Sears deep three, Jai Bailey, and one layup. Back to back to back. Boom, 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 boom. Big plays. And all of it happened in transition. All of it happened getting out and running with the court. And Jai just even though he's a transfer, has come in and just become the leader of this team. I don't know if y'all. I mean, I don't know if y'all were watching this at this point in the game, but there was a later point in the game. Robert Miller had been put in, and we had a pretty big lead, and only a couple of minutes left in the game, and we got a steal, and Robert Miller broke free and was going to slam it, and Northwestern really wasn't happy that he was going for a slam, and so there was kind of a dirty block, kind of slapped him on the head, went down really hard, ended up being a flagrant one. But guess who? Guess who came up and was telling them, "Hey, this isn't gonna cut it." It was Jai Bailey. He was the one who had Roberts back. He was the one in the defender's face saying, "We're not going to have any of that garbage here." Right? Little scuffle, really wasn't much. They broke it up. Referees reviewed it. Became a flagrant one foul as it should have been. It was a horrible play. It was dirty. It was just a spiteful play. And it was Jai Bailey. Just that kind of guy. Just a team player, and I really like him. Cam Carter, he's a spark of energy. Man, Jordan Sears, 6 of 11 from beyond the arc. He was fantastic. So I really, really like this men's team, Zach. I think they can win a bunch of games this year. I think they can. I'm not saying they're going to win the SEC championship. I'm not saying they're winning the SEC tournament. I'm not saying they're winning a national title or anything like that. I think they'll compete. I think they'll be a good SEC team. I think they can find themselves in the big dance come March. That's my expectation for them. Find a way to get into March. And they can add a quality win, Zach. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm coughing a lot. I got sick over this weekend and cough. My throat's bothering me. And doing all this talking doesn't help.
Terrible podcasting, Reagan.
I apologize. I want to be consistent here, okay? I want to be here. I don't want to tap out on y'all. So, Zach, speaking of March, they have a great resume building opportunity tomorrow night against Florida State, a Power 5 team. Zach, it seems like LSU and Florida State are similar. They're both have one loss on the season. They both played their fair share of Group of 5 teams, FCS teams. Looking at Florida State's schedule, they and both teams have a loss to a quality opponent. We lost to Pitt. I can't remember who Florida State was. I looked at it earlier, who their loss was. Maybe you pull it up real quick, Zach. But looking at their schedule, they have played a lot of close games. Now, again, LSU has had close games against inferior opponents as well. Yeah. But it seems like a lot of their games, like every one of their games, is a little too close for comfort with some of these teams. And then they have the loss against the quality opponent. Again, I don't remember who it was.
So they lost to Florida.
Florida, that's correct. Yes.
Which Florida is ranked, obviously.
Florida's a ranked opponent, yes. So this seems like a pretty good matchup. It seems like a really good matchup. So I'm excited to see how it goes. It may be the advantage that
that's
LSU.
A big one tomorrow.
Yeah, right. I think it's advantage that LSU is, got the home. They get to play them at home. Yeah. So that's advantage LSU. LSU, according to
it should be a packed out PMAC.
Yeah, hopefully it's a good crowd. ESPN, FBI has LSU the higher percentage chance to win. I think like a 60-something% chance to win. I think it's going to be a very competitive game. It's going to be fun. One of those fun games to watch, like it was with Kansas State. It was a quality opponent. You went and won the game. It was a lot of fun to watch. I think that's what this can be tomorrow night. I think LSU can win this game. So I'm excited to see because it seems like an evenly matched opponent. And so it'll be a good game. So tune in tomorrow night to watch the Tigers take on Florida State. So that's pretty much it for hoops. We're going to hit a quick break real quick, and we'll come back with our last segment to talk about the early National Signing Day right after this.
5-Star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at One Nation Doty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you, here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law.
Right back at it here in the Tigers Avenue to wrap things up. Zach should be in here in just a couple minutes. He had to go take care of something real quick, but he should be back to help wrap things up. Early National Signing Day, it's a big one for LSU. It really is a big day. LSU's got a really, really good class that they've put together here, regardless of how negative you may feel about losing Bryce Underwood. Look, guys, the reality is one of the richest guys in the world paired up with Dave Portnoy. Well, Dave Portnoy kind of paired up with him, whatever, however you want to say it. And they dropped a bag to Bryce Underwood. I mean, I really can't blame the kid, okay? It is what it is. This is the day and age that we live in. They dropped a bag, and he went. I mean, LSU really he was as locked in as it gets. He had not taken a visit to any other school. I mean, he'd taken about a half a dozen visits to LSU, not visited anywhere else, visited LSU on his own dime several times. I mean, like, it was about as locked in as it gets. It really sucks that he's gone. It really does. But there's nothing LSU, I mean, really can do there. I mean, LSU ain't spending $12 million on a guy like that. It's just LSU just doesn't have the capability to do that. Michigan found the way to do it. They didn't. It is what it is. Regardless of how you feel about that, this class is a really good class. I mean, highlighted by DJ Pickett. You know, and I mean, obviously LSU really needs to replenish their DBs. You think of DJ Pickett, who's a 5-star, Cade Phillips, who is a 5-star, Aiden Anding, who is the number 1 DB in Louisiana. I mean, this class is loaded. Harlem Berry, the number 1 running back in the country, 5-star. So, yeah, there's plenty to like about this class. You know, you really, really like what you got. I mean, Jaden Breaker is another one that I really like in this class. It's going to be a good day for LSU on signing day. Let's just put that. Regardless of how you feel, it is going to be a good day, and it could get even better. It could get even better for LSU if they're able to pull off Jakeem Stewart. And you know, word on the street is, well, it's not really word on the street. It's the truth. You know, Jakeem Stewart canceled his visit to Ohio State and made his way to LSU. So you got the last visit. You got the last shot at him. You really like that. I mean, you really like that Jakeem was the last guy, or excuse me, LSU was the last visit that Jakeem had a couple days before signing day. So maybe you feel good about that. Maybe you land Jakeem, and this class gets even better. Maybe there's a couple flips that may happen. You know, just a couple people to keep an eye on. I mean, Solomon Thomas has kind of been on the radar. He took a visit to LSU a couple weeks back. And so this class gets even better. It's a solid class. If you sign everybody who's on this list, it's going to be an awesome class. So I'm very excited overall for what National Signing Day can be. You got to close it out. You got to finish it out with all of these guys, you know, especially DJ Pickett. Obviously, there's been teams that have been wanting to make him a flip and get him to flip. But you got to close it out. I think it's going to be a good day for LSU regardless. I'm very excited. Tyler, I can't pop your comment up. I don't have the ability to do that, but I see it. If he was a no-show Saturday, that was news to me. But last I heard, he had canceled his visit to Ohio State and made his way to LSU. That's the way I understood it. And that several recruits, including DJ Pickett, were there this weekend. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I need to double check on that. Either way, he didn't go to Ohio State. You saw a couple predictions for Stewart for USC. We'll see. There's several people I think that feel good about him. You never know. Seriously, you do not know anymore. As we saw with Bryce Underwood, you just don't know. Any team could come in, drop a bag, and they're gone. We don't know. So hopefully you can hold on and sign this class. It's a very good class that can build for the future for the Tigers. And, man, if you land the top guys that you really got, like Pickett and Harlem and Cade Phillips, and obviously the offensive linemen as well, Carius Kern and Charles Ross, Jaden Breaker, maybe Derek Meadows flips, right? Everybody's been kind of thinking he's going to flip. So if he does, he does. I mean, I think everybody's kind of expecting that. You also got JT Lindsay to pair with Harlem Berry, another Louisiana guy you really like. Tyler Miller still committed, offensive lineman here in Mississippi, Laurel, big-time recruit. Damian Shanklin, defensive end. So there's, again, I could go on and on. Of course, the Bradford brother, Jacob, safety position, a big position of need. You need to sign him because you really want to get his brother here next year. 5-star recruit. So it's a big day for LSU National Signing Day. Welcome back, Zach. And I think we'd be very pleased. Speaking of brothers, also the Weeks, Zach Weeks could be added to that as well. Will be added to that as well, and signing early. He's reclassified and will make his way into this class as well. So it's going to be a good day for LSU. Hopefully no surprises, nothing major, and you can close a very solid class out. Definitely BK's best class since he's been here. And look, just to kind of wrap things up with the show, we got about 5 minutes left here. If you really close this class out to build on the future, man, there is a lot of talk that there's going to be – and Brian – there's not just talk. Brian Kelly point blank said it in his post-game press conference that there is going to be key players that return that have not announced yet. He said it pretty confidently. He said a couple weeks ago that they are fully expecting like CJ Daniels to return. So, with the Bryce Underwood thing unfolding, I really expect Garrett Nussmeier is going to be back. CJ Daniels, obviously, he said he expects him to be back. Then a couple names to look at is Emory Jones, Mason Taylor, and Harold Perkins.
Yeah.
If you bring in a good class like this, you retain these guys. And then, Zach, obviously we talked about, like in the Oklahoma game, Dominic McKinley, Donovan Keys, guys like Paul Mubinga and DJ Chester, who are freshmen contributing. Ahmad Bro played a good game. Gabe Relaford played. There's so many players that are young and that are playing.
Spears has played a lot as well early on.
Who?
Spears.
PJ Woodland has played a lot for you this season.
Yeah.
There's a lot of young guys. Xavier Atkins had
Stamps
a period
will be in
of
his
time
third year.
So it's Stamps will come back and he'll be his third year. He'll be a veteran guy. Witt will come back. He'll be a veteran guy next year. Third year. You take a step up. Donovan Keys, he's a sophomore. Dominic McKinley, Ahmad Bro, Caleb Relaford, Deshaun Womack, he's going to come back and be another. So you've got a really good core of players that are returning. And then if you add back guys that you thought were leaving.
Yeah.
I have expected Garrett Nussmeier to come back, CJ Daniels, but those three, Emory, Perkins, and Mason Taylor I thought was the least likely out of all those. But I've heard his name a lot. Dude, if you bring all those guys back, holy cow.
You're loaded. Yeah.
You are reloaded. And then, as plainly as he could have said it, Brian Kelly said they're going hard in the portal. You bring in this good signing class. You bring back key returning players, veteran players that have taken great strides this year. Plus, a huge portal class, this could be a real roster to compete. Now, look, there's certainly places where you need to get in the portal. You need defensive tackles. Oh, by the way, we mentioned that. Jacoby Gilroy's coming back for another year. Another huge return. But you need more to pair with him.
For sure.
You're losing Paez, you're losing Shand. Like, you need more. Defensive tackles and safeties are your biggest need. It is your biggest need. So in the portal, you need to bring in top-notch D-line, D-tackles, and safeties. That's going to be your biggest get. Zach, man, you look at the receiving room. Holy cow. If you return Aaron Anderson, C.J. Daniels, Chris Hilton, and a name that I think we're forgetting about, Kyle Parker.
Yeah, coming back from injury.
Like, and of course, there's younger guys that could take a step too, like Shelton Sampson. We'll see. Like, and maybe you go get a portal guy. It's a great roster, Zach.
Yeah.
Maybe you go add a veteran linebacker that can sit next to Whit Weeks, and then you can rotate in Devon with him, right? This could be a roster. Maybe you go add a quarterback because you're losing Ricky Collins, right? Which I think everybody expected that.
Yeah.
His playing time is dwindling. Like, I get it. You hate to lose a kid from Louisiana like that.
And you really don't think he is going to enter the portal if Nuss is not coming back.
No, that's pretty telling. It's pretty telling. Like that should be the ding ding ding. Like, hello, Nuss not coming back. So
at this point, I would be shocked if, like, at this point, I would be completely shocked if Nussmeier doesn't come back, if Aaron Anderson doesn't come back, if Chris Hilton doesn't come back. For sure, those three.
Aaron Anderson's coming back. By the way, like the dude is a redshirt sophomore. He's coming back. He's got 2 more years he could be here. That's crazy to think about, but he could be. He was a redshirt freshman last year. He seems like he's so old, so veteran, but he was a redshirt freshman last year. So it's, again, that's what I was trying to kind of hint at earlier. They're big picture here, guys. Big picture. Okay? Don't look at the small little details and build a little narrative that everything's falling apart. In this moment, in this moment, in this moment, in this moment. Big picture. Big picture. You had a great signing class here. You listen to what Brian Kelly's been saying. It seems like there's going to be some pretty big-time players returning. You can put together a really, really good roster. We're going hard. We're going hard in the portal. You got sophomores who are going to take, and freshmen who are probably going to take an even bigger step next year that we just talked about. This is it could be a contending roster. It can be a serious roster. For the future. It really can be. And so I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see. Look, Brian Kelly has set himself up with great expectation. So he's got to deliver on it. It's on him. Like, I think he's made it very clear. He understands, like, the expectation. And I was really glad the other night that he said, we're not happy with 8-4. Right. Who would be?
He also said, we'll see you in the national championship.
He did. He did. And I know some people didn't like that. I'd rather him say that than say, hey, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I like the confidence.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hear that more than anything else.
And by the way, he wasn't saying, like, next year. He was just saying in general, like, this team's building, we'll see in the national championship.
Yeah, I mean,
he has a confidence about the future of this program.
And that's where I think he's at. And yes, he has set himself up with some high expectations, saying we're going hard in the portal. We'll see you in the national championship. This is going to be a contending roster. I think he's saying it because I think he sees it. I think he sees. I feel like I see it, and I'm not even close. I'm not even close.
Yeah.
It's a building roster. It really is. It really is. And the reality is he's correcting some of the mistakes that he made at the beginning. He made some mistakes at the beginning on the defensive side of the ball, and he's correcting those mistakes. And here in the next few years, I think LSU is going to be very serious contenders, especially in a 12-team playoff setup. Brian Kelly,
Yeah.
say what you want. Say what you want about Notre Dame. I get their schedule isn't near as hard. I get it. Say what you want about it. But he had Notre Dame in the BCS playoff. He had Notre Dame in the 14 playoff. I say BCS playoff.
BCS chip. Yeah, yeah.
And he had them in the 14 playoff twice. I guarantee you he can get LSU into a playoff. Like, he's been this close.
Yeah.
For a couple
you think
years.
about, which we talked about that. You think about last year. I mean, you were a just adequate defense away from being a playoff team, and then this year, you were,
closing a couple games out,
and some, and having a little bit of inconsistency on the offensive and defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
If the defense was playing at their best and the offense was playing at their best at the same time during, those 3 games, what does it look like again? What does it look like this year instead of going 8-4? But
right.
Yeah, I'm excited about early signing day, Reagan. And look, I think for a lot of LSU fans, early signing day is, it's going to be a little bit of a bummer, obviously, because of everything that is going on that happened with Bryce Underwood. I don't think that sting is, that's going to be a scar there for LSU fans for a while. So, on early signing day, obviously there's going to be still some letdown from that, especially when LSU fans see him sign, with Michigan, which is fully expected. What would be really crazy is if he just threw a hoax in front of everybody and
Could you imagine?
And sign with LSU on Wednesday. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. But holy cow, that would be insane.
Because he's already released merchandise with Barstool.
Just joking. Everybody that's listening, I'm just joking. But LSU, as I'm sure you've already said, Reagan, LSU still has a strong class, top 10 class. Let's see if they can flip some guys. Maybe you have some of your own guys flip. That's bound to happen.
You gotta expect.
You really want to hold on to your guys. And even if LSU suffers some losses on Wednesday, I'm still confident with the potential of what your roster will look like next year. Based on all those things you mentioned, Brian Kelly saying that they're going to hammer the portal. Brian Kelly saying that there's a lot of guys that they're expecting to return that just haven't announced yet. All that, like, I really think next year is going to be a team that will very much compete for a playoff spot. And, we'll be back here early on in the fall before the season kicks off talking about all that. And I understand it's really early right now, but and I don't want to sound like a sunshine pumper because you still got to get a lot of things fixed on the defensive side of the ball and on the offensive side of the ball. You still got to get a lot of things fixed. So will that play out next year? Hopefully. But as far as personnel goes, you are seeing that this team is getting better and better personnel wise, which is why you haven't been able to get over the hump the last 2 years. That's why defensively you've had issues this year. That's why offensively you've had some issues this year, just because of the personnel issues. So LSU on the up, I think. And that's crazy to say because, when during the midst of that 3-game losing streak, it felt like the ship was good grief. The ship was sinking. Thank you. I finally got out. And I mean, I completely understand why too, because it just felt like, with everything that you had, and all of the game, the 6-game winning streak leading up to those games just felt like you were the better team than A&M, and then Florida. Alabama, you could debate. I know obviously they got blown off the field in that game, but when you take a step back and, as you say all the time, Reagan, look at the big picture, it feels like this is a team that's on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you can't which every fan base does. It's not just LSU, but people are impatient and people want results now. And that's why we have things like NIL and portal, right? We want money right now. We want a new situation right now. I want playing time right now. And that's why fan bases every single year are like, fire him, fire him, fire him. You can't do that. That never has that been good and led to championships. You think, guys, think for a moment. Think. Kirby Smart built the program. 6th year, it's a national title. Jim Harbaugh with Michigan builds the program. There were times when Michigan they were on the brink of firing him.
Yeah.
But they stuck with him, and he finally won one. It does not help you to be rotating in and out, coach. Look at Auburn. Look at Florida. Right?
Yep.
And I think Florida is finally wising up.
Yep.
They need to stick with Billy Napier. I thought he was going to be gone before the end of the year because of how the fan base has been. It is better to hold on to your coach. I mean, there's times I agree that it's like, okay, it's probably time to pack it up. I get that it gets to that point sometimes. But we can't become a program where we're trying to rotate coaches every 3-4 years. They'll never build a program. So the future's bright. We'll talk more about it. And obviously, we'll be back here this week. We'll discuss what goes down on Tuesday with the LSU men's basketball versus Florida State. And we'll talk about Wednesday, signing day, and the results from that as well. Maybe there'll be some surprises. We'll see. You never know on early national signing day what might happen. Hopefully, Tigers can close up a very solid class that they already have. So, appreciate you guys being in here. Appreciate you, Tyler. We always love having y'all interacting. Love to have y'all in here commenting more often. Do it as often as you can. We love the interaction. Appreciate y'all being in here. We'll see you next time here on the Tigers Avenue Show. So here, take us out. Peace.
Who that fire stuff?